Okay, so you've been hearing a ton about e-bikes, right? And you're really curious about one thing in particular, throttles. Like, are they really a safety concern? You send us a whole bunch of articles and research on it, so clearly you've been doing your homework, which we love. And don't worry, we're here to help sort through all of it.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a hot topic. Especially with all these e-bike regulations going back and forth, it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the info out there. And honestly, some of it's pretty scary. But like with any good mystery, got to separate the facts from, well, the fear-mongering. Like one statistic that really jumped out at me, did you know e-bike accidents that needed a trip to the ER, those went up by 21% in just 1 year?
Whoa, 21%. Okay, yeah, that'll get your attention. And speaking of attention grabbing, I saw something in here about the Event and Cinch Point 2 recall. It seems like some of those bikes were like taking off on their own. Unintended acceleration, they called it.
Oh yeah, the Aventon thing.
Can you imagine just casually riding along and suddenly your e-bike decides to go full speed ahead?
Oh, totally. And that's the thing. Unintended acceleration is a real concern. And it makes you think about those throttle-controlled systems, especially, if there's a malfunction. It can even happen to young riders, which is just awful.
Awful.
One of the articles mentioned a pediatric surgeon, Dr. Ignacio. He's seen a really sad increase in serious e-bike injuries.
Oh, no.
Yeah, broken bones, internal injuries, and sadly some cases that were fatal. He says those high speeds are a major factor, often because of those throttles.
Okay, wow. That definitely makes you think twice. But important to remember, not all e-bikes are the same. We've got those pedal assist bikes, like the Gazelle ones,
Right.
and then the throttle-only bikes. For anyone listening who's not totally up on the difference, can we break that down?
Absolutely. Pedal assist, it's kind of like having a buddy who gives you a little push when you need it, especially uphill. You still get exercise, but with that extra help. Throttle e-bikes, though, they're more like, say, a scooter. You can engage the motor without pedaling at all.
So with pedal assist, you're putting in the work, getting exercise, which is a big plus. I see why brands like Gazelle are into that. It's not just tech, it's promoting a healthier lifestyle, too.
Totally.
Eh.
And research backs that up. One study from Portland State University found that people who used pedal assist e-bikes ended up exercising more. Yeah. But then the National Institute for Transportation and Communities, or NITC, found that throttle use can actually make people less active.
Which makes sense, I guess, not using your muscles as much.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these two different systems, each with pros and cons, but where do regulations come in? Because honestly, it's like a free-for-all out there from what I'm reading.
It's a bit of a maze, that's for sure. At the federal level, there's a loose definition of an e-bike, but nothing about throttle control. That's up to each state.
Oh, boy.
Which creates, as you might imagine, a real patchwork of laws.
So even if you think you're following the rules, you could cross a state line and boom, you're breaking the law.
It can be tricky.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So that's where those 3 classes come in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some states are using this 3-class system. Basically categorizes e-bikes based on speed and how they work.
Okay.
But even that's not consistent. Some states love it.
Yeah.
Others are like, wait and see. And others are still figuring things out.
So basically, knowing the rules around these e-bikes, especially with throttles, could be a real pain. Good thing you're here to help us with this. So yeah, it sounds like figuring out these e-bike rules, especially when throttles get involved, it's a real headache. But hey, maybe that's a good thing for some folks. I mean, you know what they say, when there's confusion, there's opportunity, right?
Right.
But really, this whole 3-class system, it does seem like a step in the right direction, at least trying to make sense of it all. But what's the big push? Why the change? Is it just about organization, or are there actual safety concerns behind it?
Oh, it goes way beyond just tidying up the rule book. This push for stricter rules, a lot of it comes down to, you guessed it, safety.
Makes sense.
We talked about those rising accident numbers earlier, remember? And those throttle-equipped e-bikes. Yeah, they're raising some eyebrows.
Yeah, you see those news stories, right? E-bike accidents, especially in cities, everybody packed in. Cars, bikes, pedestrians. Seems like a recipe for disaster if you're not super careful.
And it's not just, anecdotal. Studies are showing that e-bikes with throttles, especially the ones that can go really fast, they're in way more accidents, especially on bike paths or those crowded areas.
It's like if you don't have to pedal to go fast, maybe you're not paying as much attention. Like the difference between driving automatic versus stick shift, you're just less, engaged with actually moving the vehicle.
Great analogy. Plus, with throttle e-bikes, there's always that chance of that sudden burst of speed, that whoosh, catches cyclists, pedestrians, everybody off guard. And that's when things can go wrong, especially in those crowded streets or bike paths.
So it's not just the rider then, it's the whole setup, the infrastructure, right? Like a lot of those bike lanes, they weren't built for these faster e-bikes.
Totally. We're seeing a real clash. E-bike use is booming, especially with the throttle ones. But the infrastructure, it's like it's stuck in the slow lane. Most bike lanes, paths, those were designed for traditional bikes.
Yeah.
Slower, more predictable. But now you throw in these faster e-bikes, especially the throttle ones that can really take off. It's a recipe for, well,
A recipe for trouble.
Yeah.
So it's like cities are trying to hit a moving target, right? Until they figure this whole regulation thing out, what's the e-bike industry doing? Are they just along for the ride, or are they trying to make things safer?
it's interesting, right? It's this push and pull between the regulations and the technology.
Yeah.
The good news is a lot of e-bike companies, they're being proactive, adapting as things change.
Yeah.
Some are making e-bikes with different modes, so you can switch between throttle and pedal assist depending on the situation.
That's clever. Best of both worlds. Throttle when you need it, but you can switch to a safer, more like pedal-powered option when it makes sense. Any other cool innovations in the pipeline?
Oh, tons. Safety is becoming a big selling point now. You see more e-bikes with fancy speed limiters, so they automatically cap your speed,
Yeah.
even if you're using the throttle. And some of the really high-end ones, they're even getting collision avoidance systems, like automatic braking, lane departure warnings, like
Yeah.
you'd see in a car.
No way. Seriously, it shows they're taking it seriously, right? It's not just about slapping a throttle on and calling it a day.
Not at all.
They're thinking about how to use this tech responsibly, which is good to see.
Totally. But it goes beyond just the tech itself, you know?
Yeah.
It's about education, too.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of companies are stepping up, teaching people about the different types of e-bikes, how to use the throttles, all that. They're realizing that an informed rider is a safe rider.
Right. Like that saying, with great power comes great responsibility, or I guess with great e-bikes.
Right. Right.
But seriously, learning about e-bikes, how to ride them safely, that's going to be so important going forward, especially with more and more of them out there.
I think so, too. It's about building that culture of responsibility, you know? Like, we're all sharing these roads, paths, and just a little awareness goes a long way.
Big time. Okay, so we've covered the safety stuff with throttles, the regulations, and how the industry is responding. But let's bring it back to our listeners. The reason they might be into e-bikes in the first place, the actual experience. How does picking between throttle or pedal assist change how you actually ride and enjoy the e-bike?
That's the key, right? It comes down to what you want from an e-bike. If you like that classic cycling feel where you're working but getting a little help, maybe on hills, then pedal assist might be for you. And that's where those Gazelle bikes come in.
Yeah. Those Gazelles are everywhere these days. What's so special about their system?
They're all about a smooth, easy ride. It's not just sticking a motor on any bike. It's about making the tech feel like part of the bike, you know? So it actually makes cycling more fun. They're pedal assist systems. They're known for that really smooth, responsive power. It's like having someone gently pushing you along when you need it most.
Okay, now I want to try a Gazelle. Just cruising up those hills, leaving everyone in the dust. But really, it sounds like Gazelle has nailed that balance, helping you out but keeping the heart of cycling intact.
Totally. And it's not just about the ride itself either. Remember we talked about long-term stuff? One thing that popped up was the wear and tear. Throttle versus pedal assist.
Right.
Because you're pedaling with the Gazelle, you're not putting as much stress on the motor and battery. And that means...
Less maintenance, right.
You got it. Lower costs over time, which is always a good thing.
Music to my ears. I love anything that makes my gadgets last longer and saves me money. Okay, so it's all about finding the e-bike that fits right. But let's talk more about those Gazelle pedal assist bikes. We keep seeing them pop up, and it seems like they're onto something. But we've focused on throttle safety. What about pedal assist? Like Gazelles? Anything to keep in mind on the safety front?
It's a good point. And that smooth, integrated feel of Gazelle's system, it really helps with safety too, because the motor's help is tied into your pedaling. So speeding up and slowing down feels way more natural. It's predictable. Less chance of that sudden jerk that can catch you off guard, especially those stop-and-go situations. You know?
Right, like riding in the city.
Exactly.
So it's about feeling more in control, more in tune with the bike. At the end of the day, it's not always about going super fast, right?
Nope.
It's about getting around safely, feeling confident.
100%. And a lot of Gazelle models, they've got even more safety features.
Yeah.
Like electronic braking systems.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
They react faster than regular brakes, which is clutch in those moments. And they've got something called torque sensors. Basically, these sensors figure out how hard you're pedaling, and then they adjust the motor to match. So it's a super smooth ride.
It's amazing what they can do these days. Seems like companies like Gazelle, they're putting a lot of thought into making these bikes fun but safe too.
For sure. And it's not just about the tech itself. Remember we talked about e-bike education?
Yeah, knowing the rules of the road.
Exactly. The more people know about how these bikes work, how to ride them responsibly, the safer it is for everyone.
Totally. So we've covered a lot today. Throttles versus pedal assist, those tricky e-bike regulations, even some of the cool safety tech. Before we wrap up, any key takeaways for our listeners?
First off, remember, knowledge is power. This e-bike world is changing fast, so stay informed. Keep up with the different systems, the risks, what the rules are in your area. Being informed is the best way to make good decisions.
So true. And just to be clear, we're not trying to scare anyone away from e-bikes.
No way.
We just want you to have the info you need to navigate all of this.
Exactly. Second, keep safety front and center. Throttle, pedal assist, whatever you choose, take the time to really get to know how it works. Practice somewhere safe and always ride responsibly.
Oh, and wear a helmet. Always.
Always a helmet. And finally, think long-term. What are your priorities? You want a workout buddy, a way to get around town, zipping through traffic, or cruising on those bike paths. Those answers will help you find the e-bike that really fits your life, your style.
So well put. It's about finding the e-bike that's perfect for you. And hey, maybe that changes as you try new things, explore a bit.
Exactly. And on that note, I'll leave you with this. E-bikes are evolving so quickly. Where do we draw the line? Innovation versus regulation. How do we keep things safe without, stopping progress? It's a question we'll be grappling with as e-bike tech just keeps getting cooler and cooler.
It's a brave new world out there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, ride safe, everyone.
The Herd Podcast is produced by the Gazelle International Owners Group on Facebook. The managing editor and executive producer is Gary Fujioka Sr.